Hello everyone, it is March the 15th. It is day 12 of TowerGate. Okay, so let's talk about what's been going on in the last 24 hours. Well, not a whole lot. There is one thing I picked up on last night that's kind of getting a little bit of buzz, so I'll mention that. I think it's has enough credibility to be included. And there's a lot of people suggesting that maybe Trump learned about the surveillance on him from Benjamin Netanyahu, who was in town about a week and a half or so ago. And if anyone would know, it would probably be Benjamin Netanyahu, because the Israeli intelligence, probably one of the best intelligence agencies in the world, is deeply embedded, not just into the intelligence community in the United States, but also into the DoD, the Pentagon, and various other areas of the intelligence and defense industry at the hierarchy of the United States government. So the Israelis are very, very tuned into this. They have their own people. I wouldn't call them moles, but they have their own sources within all the intelligence communities, the CIA, the NSA. They have their people in there. They're also connected at the grid level with intelligence in the United States. They own the company where all the routers and switches are, where all the calls come and go in the United States. So certainly the Israelis could conduct their own intelligence operations, monitoring all calls coming and going, and I would not be surprised if they do. They also have a great deal of knowledge, and they also have a lot of penetration into the intelligence agency, particularly the British version of the NSA. So if anybody would know whether or not excuse me, if anybody would know whether or not there's some sort of intelligence going on, some sort of surveillance going on, surveilling Donald Trump, be it from the NSA or the CIA, using a third party such as the GCHQ. If anybody would know, Netanyahu probably would. And he's probably one of the few people Donald Trump can really trust. And so that would explain how Trump may have learned of it, but it would also, more importantly, explain why Donald Trump cannot say where he learned this information. He couldn't really go out and say, well, I learned it from Netanyahu. That would be kind of throwing Netanyahu under the bus. It would create a lot of problems for Netanyahu domestically, and it's just not something he would do. So that would explain, though, exactly why Donald Trump cannot say much. But I feel like Donald Trump probably has heard that from multiple sources. There's a lot of people who believe that Mike Rogers, who was head of the NSA, may have told him. They did meet at Trump Tower during the period between the election and the inauguration, and so it's possible that Mike Rogers could have mentioned this. So there's several people who might have this information that he could have given it to Donald Trump, and so it's hard to speculate on exactly who that may be. So that's one issue that has kind of popped up there, and I think it's got some credibility, maybe some legitimacy, and is a possibility. It's worth noting. But I don't know that we'll ever find that out. It's one of the things that you'll never really find out. So anyway, let's move on to the next thing. Well, today was supposed to be a day where James Comey was supposed to supply some answers to some questions that have been given to him by the Judiciary Committee in the Senate and the Senate Intelligence Committee as well. I guess Lindsey Graham is heading this up. So apparently they gave Comey a list of questions, and I think he was supposed to get those answers to them today. As far as I know, as of 5:30, 6 o'clock p.m., there's nothing. I searched on it, and there's nothing indicating that they have received this information yet. They are going to be having some hearings in the morning, and I think that they wanted this information by tomorrow morning. But Comey himself will be testifying Monday, this coming Monday. And so we'll see what Comey has to say. I think that primarily what they want to know is, did the FBI, via the Department of Justice, seek any type of warrant to investigate Russian hacking, Russian influence with the Trump administration, or possibly any type of surveillance of Donald Trump, these three main areas. But I think what they really want to know is there or was there any type of investigation going on Donald Trump and people around him during the campaign process or up until now, and is there any type of ongoing investigations regarding Trump and the Russians or anything like that? So it's a broad area that they're dealing with here. So we've been hearing that there's people saying that they're 100% certain that there was FISA warrants requested to look into Trump or his server or people around him. We know they're investigating the Russians hacking. We know that's not a big secret. I imagine that's what Comey will want to focus on. But it looks like they're kind of pinning him into a corner here and basically forcing him, because as we know, Comey doesn't like to comment on ongoing investigations. He generally will not do that, but I think that they're kind of holding his feet to the fire because, quite honestly, the heat's been turned up and people are wanting some answers. So I think if there was, and of course Comey did not get, I think he was hoping for some cover from the Department of Justice so that he wouldn't have to come out and be the guy, but it looks like the Department of Justice is kicking it around. They're saying that they're having to look into it. They don't really know or whatever. So it looks like it's almost like they want Comey to come out and talk before they talk. So there's some strange things going on about this, and it just feels like that there's something there that they really don't want to come into the public knowledge about these warrants and the FISA warrants and surveillance. Because remember, the key issue is once Comey comes out and says, yes, we did get a FISA warrant to look into Donald Trump or his server or his association with Russians or people around him. Once you do that, the very next question is going to be, what was the probable cause or reason that you used to get the warrant? And that opens up a whole other can of worms. That's where the can of worms is. It's not so much the warrant itself. It's where did you get the intel? What intel did you have that gave you the courts, what gave the courts the permission to grant the warrant? And this is where you could really open up a lot of territory of questions that could be very wide-ranging and probably taking this thing places where Comey definitely does not want to go. And of course, we haven't heard him talk anything about whether or not next week in these hearings we're going to hear from the previous CIA director or attorney general. I haven't heard a word about that. But if there's two people you want to talk to regarding this issue, it's Loretta Lynch and John Brennan. They would be the two people you would definitely want to talk to. The FBI, as a rule, they're not like the CIA or the NSA or some of these spooky intelligence agencies that do everything in the cloak and dagger field. The FBI has to pretty much operate on the straight and narrow, above board. They pretty much, if they're going to do surveillance, they're probably going to do it with warrants. They're not going to do it illegally. If they're going to do it, they're going to do it legally, if you're talking about the FBI. With the intelligence agencies, God only knows. And even when you do call these people in, they just lie. They don't tell the truth. So, there's a long way to go. This, like I said, this reminds me a lot of Watergate. Watergate was the exact same way. It went on for 2.5 years. When it first started happening, there was all these, anonymous sources. No one would go on the record on the story whatsoever. Plenty of people would talk, but they would never allow themselves to go on the record. And it was just this drip, drip, drip until finally the thing boiled over. And I still think that because so much of this stuff involves intelligence and involves agencies that lie, agencies that they just don't disclose this kind of stuff. I mean, there's, unless you've got them backed into a corner and they're forced, and even then they'll usually lie. So, you might get something out of the FBI if they applied for FISA warrants or other types of warrants. They're probably going to have to disclose that. There will be a record of that. It'll be hard for them to not to do that. But dealing with the intelligence agencies is totally different than dealing with the FBI. It's a whole different world. And I still believe that ultimately we're never going to get to the bottom of this, because these agencies don't leave paper trails. especially when they use third parties and things like that. I think ultimately, as was the case in Watergate, it's going to take a whistleblower. It's going to take someone who is intimately involved, who was a part of it, who feels the pressure and may think that the walls are closing in, and they decide to roll over and they decide to sing like a bird. It's probably going to take a human coming out, and someone coming out and dropping it on somebody. It's probably not going to happen just through these committee hearings and things like that. I don't expect much will come out of it. So anyway, that's what today looks like. Not much new going on. Of course, I'll mention briefly something on the unrelated topic, the Rachel Maddow thing. That was really funny. A lot of people were suggesting that Trump may have, or someone close to Trump may have purposely leaked those tax returns from 2005 to Rachel Maddow to make her look foolish, which, of course, if that was their intention, they certainly succeeded, because she certainly did look foolish. And it turns out that Donald Trump pays almost twice the tax rate of Bernie Sanders. So we'll see how the Bernie Sanders supporters feel about that over the next few days. I should have some fun trolling them, shouldn't I? Okay, well, listen, that's about it for today. If anything else should break later this evening, I'll certainly do a video on it. But other than that, kind of a slow day. I think next week is when we're going to start seeing some fireworks when the hearings start. Until then, I'll continue to keep you updated every day with the report on TowerGate, regardless of whether it's a busy day or a slow day. We'll just stay on the story until it's finally finished. So I appreciate everybody, all my subscribers, and sharing my videos, and appreciate everything. You guys all take care and have a good evening. And if something pops up, I'll be back. Otherwise, I'll see you tomorrow with the next 24 hours worth of drip, drip, drip. Alrighty? See y'all. Bye.